Open Studio design sessions. Again, if you're new around here, welcome to the channel. These Open Studio design sessions are really intended to be working sessions for you and I. Um, I can be working on my projects here, and you can be working on yours. It doesn't even have to be for planes or anything, just anything creative. Just spend some time and work on it for 2 hours, and hopefully we can have that kind of a studio atmosphere through the internet. So that's kind of what's going on here. Again, welcome back. It's been a while. Let me back right here. My last stream was a week ago, but honestly feels longer than that. But yeah, I guess we can just get started today with the session here. Again, logistically, we are, finishing up the YX10 M1, Astra M1 variant here. You can see, kind of the progress that we've made so far. This design is nearing completion, but there's still a little bit of, there's still some things left to do. Namely, integrating these undercarriage fairings for the landing gear that we made last time. We made both of these covers last time. And we just have to, keep on working with this to fully integrate it into the airframe. And, that'll be an adventure. um, I say that because this might need some modification. The landing gear themselves are okay; they're fine as is. But actually, the problem with this fairing right here is that it's uh, being interfered with by the leading edge flap here. So we're gonna have to either move the landing gear in, which is feasible. It's a small minor adjustment. I just need to cut into this body panel here a little bit. But I'm just trying to get back into the hang of things. I haven't looked at this in a long time, in over a week, so please bear with me here. Essentially, what we want to do is adjust the landing gear, fine-tune the position so that the fairings will not be interfering with the leading edge flaps, and then we will be fully integrating them into the fuselage here. And once that's done, we can do some additional paneling to smooth out the right angle corners, right, just to make it look a little better. That's going to add some weight, but I think for aesthetic purposes, it's going to be pretty good. And then after that, do a couple of repairs here, panel over some of these junction areas to make it look smoother. And, overall just fine tuning everything, and, working on, making transitions a little bit more seamless. As you can see right here, this is pretty obvious here that there's a panel gap here. So we'll have to continue working on that, and hopefully at some point we will also integrate the vertical stabilizers, the final major element of this design. And after that, we're pretty much all set. But originally I intended for this build to be completed near end of January. And we are approaching that date really quickly, and I think this will have to continue on a little bit into February, just because we want to perfect the details and try and get things right. So that's kind of the logistics going forward. Again, today we're going to be mainly integrating these landing gear, and also you might notice here in the front that there is a paperclip right here, the silver colored one jammed in there. And this is actually done from last time, at the end of the session last time, to to pull on this additional piece of elastic band here, and the intent is to stretch this tighter and, kind of fix it to the underbelly here, where we might have to install a handle also. And that the idea behind that is to increase the tension a little bit so that this mechanism doesn't collapse in on itself due to the weight of the aircraft. So this really should have been accounted for in the original mechanism design. We should have increased the tension considerably, but since we're at this stage now with all these fairings that are covering over the mechanism, we have to make do. And I did put an additional piece of elastic band inside before I sealed it up, but I just didn't really use it. And now it's time to fully, stretch it out to get a very strong forward landing gear here. Right now it's a little bit weak, but hopefully I can anchor this to the fuselage on the outside. That's like a temporary fix. That's not ideal, but for the sake of getting the design to work a little better, have a little stiffer front landing gear, we need to do that. Hopefully this anchor point on the outside here will work with the potential little handle here, because we do need a handle to be able to flight test this thing, right? Because otherwise it'd be kind of hard to throw this into the air. So yeah, you can see the paper clip kind of stabbed into me right there. But anyways, so that's what this is, in case you're wondering. So that's among one of the many steps left to go before the landing gear are fully complete. So anchor this elastic band, remove these cowls real quick, and position the landing gear a little bit better. And that's going to require some minor surgery here with the panels right here. So we're going to have to cut into that, move it slightly so that these fairings don't interfere with the leading edge flaps. Because right now the right side is looking okay, actually. If you look at this, right, it mounts actually quite nicely and it's flush. So I don't think we'll have to make too many adjustments on this side. It's mainly the left side that I'm a little bit worried about. Because if you look at it here, if it covers everything flush, this front fairing is just a little bit too far outboard, and it's interfering with the orange leading edge flap there. So we need to shift it in just a tiny bit. That's going to require some minor surgery here, so that's kind of the plan going forward. I think we're going to start with the left side here because that's the main problem. In terms of alignment, I don't think it'll change the look too much. I actually think it can come in a little tiny bit and still be fine. Again, this is not perfect. This is not machine perfect, so it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical, but just a slight bit inward will resolve this fairing integration fit issue. And after that, we can proceed forward with the design overall. So this is looking quite promising. This is, step by step, we're slowly getting there, right? This door is split into two panels from last time. Last time we really got a lot of work done getting these two fairings done, but now it's just a matter of integrating it into the airframe. And that's going to require a little bit of correction here. So, and then after that, we can fix up the paneling, smooth it out, smooth everything out, and smooth out the panel pieces on the top, start building the vertical stabilizers. So this, again, if you just joined, this project might actually go into February, and I expect it to be fully complete mid to late February at this point. I do need to take a week off early February, so I will not be streaming on, I think it's the no, it's not the 29th, it's the 5th. I will not be online on the 5th, so I might actually do an additional stream this weekend. I'm not sure quite yet, but I'll make up the time for sure. But that's kind of the logistics of this channel going forward. Again, welcome if you're just joining. And I think there was a comment earlier. Let's see here. Nice, excited to see what you do. I am excited too. Yeah, definitely excited to see this project come all together. And this is definitely the most involved I've ever been on a single project. So, hopefully it pays off. And from the looks of it, it already is starting to pay off. So that's good. Another thing I do want to mention is that I've upgraded my internet, so hopefully the stream is in 1080p, but if it's not, let me know. I'll look into the settings a little bit more, but I recently upgraded my internet so that I have a higher up speed, which should be capable of doing 1080p 60, which is the full resolution I think that YouTube allows at this moment. So yeah, definitely let me know how that goes. I can't really see the stream for myself because yeah, it's currently in, Benjamin Rogers says it's currently in 720p, so that's a bummer. I really wish I could stream in 1080. That's like the ideal scenario, but I don't know, like the mobile app doesn't have a setting that manually sets it to 1080p. I think they just default to 720 for most people, so I don't know. We'll have to do some more testing with that in the future, but definitely interesting to see what the resolution is. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started here with this modification in the back. And the intent here is to do a slight shift inboard so that the fairing can fit better. And so to do that, I'm going to mark out where exactly we need the end of this thing to be and where it needs to be in the front. I think moving it in this much should be perfect. It's really a small minor adjustment, but we can't just pull this off and move it in because this panel is at a slant. So if you actually do that, it ends up being a little bit lopsided. So this I'm gonna put to the side here. So now it looks all weird without any fairing whatsoever. But I think since we marked this out, it should be okay because we know where to put it. So we can actually remove this. Just the support material here. I think we have it under these longitudinal pieces. Not really sure. To be a little careful here with regards to that. So this feels a little bit wrong, right? You're ripping off the work that you've done, but it's necessary in order to move forward. Again, I apologize for the 720p. We're in 2021 now, and really should be in 1080p, but I can't get that to work, and that's kind of outside my control. I feel like I have more control on the computer. Like I could stream, like tell it to stream 1080p with like specific applications like OBS or something like that. But I don't have a connection, like a good camera connection to the computer that I have right here with me. I tried streaming from my Logitech StreamCam webcam connected through USB-C to my computer, which is a very fast connection, and it could not stream properly. Like there were noise issues, right? The sound was being distorted and things like that. I think that stream was in 1080p, But that was when I had slower internet, so I might actually have to try that webcam again and see if it works. Okay, so this is looking quite nice. This landing gear came off really not that easily, which is good. I think I'm gonna keep this as is. We'll just replace the bottom pad there. Okay, this is a little bit sketchy, but I'm gonna start trimming inwards on this body panel here. Along this line that I'm gonna draw. This is, again, this is a very slight adjustment. Good design is all in the details. So we're paying attention here to the details. And we are making an adjustment as necessary. Okay. That's the thing, the fairing itself can actually rest on a surface that's alright. That's you know, slanted. That's what I was gonna say. Complete my thought there. But the landing gear cannot, because it is a structural piece and the orientation really matters. So we're gonna see if this works a little better in terms of alignment. If it works, then I will implement the 2 pieces of tape, or rather the 1 piece of tape underneath. So I think alignment, it looks okay. It's a little bit more inboard, and it's looking okay. Cut out a slightly larger slot, but I want to see how the fairing does move. Most importantly, there we go. I can use my words now. This is definitely a better fit right now, I think, for the fairing. Just moving it in a slight amount. Again, we can smooth things out with additional fairing pieces, but the bones of the structure have to work together. Okay, so I'm gonna adjust the fit a little bit here. I'm gonna increase the little gap where this is. So that was not very descriptive, I realize, but we're gonna cut a little bit more. Okay, I think this should be better. Just a little bit more clearance for this whole thing. See the fit here. I think it looks decent. It still fits. Everything still works. Everything's still roughly aligned. Okay. That was good. Just do a test fit with this fairing here. I'm wondering why this is not aligned. It's an interesting problem to have. Okay, let's try this again. Sorry. A piece of tape got stuck there. Okay, yeah, it fits without much conflict now. That's good. So I think we fixed the fit issue. Now we just need to fully attach this thing, and we need a piece underneath for that. So we kind of grab our tape here. So we're gonna wrap this tape around itself. So, yeah, that should be good. So that's the thing with landing gear, is that they're very flight critical in real life, because your whole airplane will break if you don't get them right. So it's kind of the same idea here, except you don't want it to wobble too much. You want it to be relatively stiff. And I don't know. This is looking okay. Just need some slight adjustments to the angle of the gear. Looks fine. And I think now we can actually finally integrate both of these fairings. Yeah, that small adjustment really made a huge difference in terms of the fit, because now this can come down flush, or as flush as can be, with this right here. And we'll have to do some modifications to smooth out the panels. Additional things, right? But, we haven't even tested the landing gear fairings in the closed position yet, and I think that's really only going to be able to be tested after we fully integrate it on, because you need a the fairing needs to be able to handle the pretension loading from the spring-loaded landing gear. So you just need to be patient, I guess. One step at a time, slowly work our way towards that. This is looking good. This is looking good. I think both sides pretty symmetric for the most part. Yeah, okay. So I think we can get started with securing it down. To do that, I will be doing that little tube method up front here, and that's going to help adhere the two faces together. So, again, right, this method of, using the tape, we're going to grab a little piece here and wrap it around itself so that it forms this nice little tube thing. And I'm gonna place it right here. Usually I like to put the seam right on one face so that it doesn't separate itself. Because if it's off to the side, if it's like on one side or the other, it might actually come off, even though it's tape and it's pretty sticky. Just gotta be careful about that, and just good practice to put it on one of the faces so that it doesn't spread apart. The two pieces can't come apart like that. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm making sense to myself, but if you guys have any questions, let me know. Okay, so we have the bottom piece in. Now we're just aligning this properly and you're just pressing it into place here. This is going to be a little bit tricky, but I'm going to use the mechanical pencil here. So I have a Pentel Graph 500 here. It has a needle point. You can grab any mechanical pencil with a needle point, really. These are good for drafting, but I also find it useful for getting hard to reach places like that. Okay, so this is actually a little bit wider than the slot here, which is a problem. I'm gonna use tweezers for this. Just like really press the bottom of this thing in. Okay, that doesn't sound really good because this the tip here, this tweezer is serrated. It has like little teeth, but this should really adhere the two faces together. And I believe it has, yeah, for the most part, it's all set to go. And so now comes the tricky part of actually forming a nice seal on all edges here. This is going to be a little bit tricky, but nothing too complicated that we haven't dealt with before. Side here, right? We can always cut the excess off, so don't be scared. Just go ahead and get one side down and have it link up to adjacent or two perpendicular surfaces here. That'll give it a nice seal, and it's a mechanical brace kind of between the two faces there, and we can just trim off the excess like so. Again, that's always my preferred method of trimming. It's very clean, very satisfying, oddly. And just sliding your X-Acto knife through a piece of cellophane tape, which again, it's not plastic, surprisingly. I learned that from a fellow viewer from a previous stream. It's not plastic, so I don't feel too guilty about using a lot of it. Um, that's looking good. So we got the back side here. So we got the bottom face, the side face here. We're gonna get the side face ahead of this little notch here. This little notch, honestly, you could probably tape over it, but using one piece. But I decided to get two pieces here because I don't want it to interfere with this fulcrum. This fulcrum is the landing gear here, right? So just the way that it's engineered, this mechanism, you have a little bit of, material here outside of the footprint of this popsicle stick base. So this is the landing gear without the door thing, right? So kind of looks like that, right? It has the pre-tension element and everything. So that this little bit here, it prevents the landing gear from sliding apart. Kind of secures the linear motion there. So yeah, again, we're gonna have to tape the front here. So I'm just gonna grab a little piece like that. And so this is kind of sketchy. I feel like it's such a small area that it shouldn't matter. So we're gonna be a little bit risky here. And we are going to, actually, we could just play it safe. But it's gonna be hard because this is a very tight location to attach these pieces of tape. It's between the leading edge flap and the fairing, and there's just so much going on here at this junction. Honestly, sometimes I feel like these designs aren't necessarily the most aerodynamic, but they bring me the most joy. I will say that, because it has an element of realism, which I really appreciate. So at the end of the day, these are really kind of works of art. So this is going to be kind of sketch, but we're going to slice this off so that it doesn't interfere with the flap drive mechanism there. That's looking good. Oof. Alright, so this door, I just want to test this out. I haven't actually done like a proper test for this. Maybe this whole thing is a little bit aft of where it needs to be. Yeah, so definitely like mechanical parts like this, they're a little bit difficult to work with. But I'm pretty sure this is already at the most forward location that it can be at. So I'm not sure. I might have to trim that a little bit to make this landing gear be able to fit. I don't think we're gonna adjust this though at this stage. So we've already attached so much tape. You might notice this thing right here, that's, again, if you're new around here, that's to increase the tension of this nose gear here. We'll work with that later, but for now, let's look at the fairing here. So the back one is interesting. It can be a longer piece of tape. But still, it's going to be a little bit tricky because it's a very unique angle that we have here. I cut it in the middle to allow the two pieces to meld together. I'm probably gonna add like an additional fairing structure here anyways, so it's not a huge deal. Oh, apologies for that. But this is the fairing. I'm pretty sure it's like pretty stiff and locked into place there. This is the front here. Front here needs a little work. My plan for this is to use a half strip 0.375 width piece of tape. So lock this front part of the fairing into the rest of the fuselage there. That's going to wrap around over to the top here. Another reason why we need to panel the top is to smooth out all of these little marks and things. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Just testing out the doors here, how they work. I think the front one is a little bit under stress. It's like bulging out a little bit, but the rear one definitely fits into place. And it's not perfect, it's not seamless, but I think it keeps the landing gear in, which is the main function that it's supposed to do. I think it looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. It's definitely interesting. I will say that. And the way to get it out is just to use something small to pop it out like that. And if you pop this one out, then the landing gear comes out. So again, when the landing gear is out, you could actually technically put this panel in to like reduce the clutter at the bottom here. So it actually looks cleaner like that with one in. So that'll be a neat configuration. I know like on some real life aircraft, they actually do that where you have the landing gear retract, both doors open, landing gear is fully retracted or fully deployed, and one of the doors closes to reduce drag. So this is kind of similar to that. It's not entirely like that, but I think for the most part it does the job just fine. Yeah, so this is looking good. This is looking good. We'll definitely smooth this out around the edges, but for the most part, I think it's good. You can also use the second half of that tape here on the back to really secure everything in place. Yeah, it's a tough angle to get this edge right in focus, but I think this is a very solid integration here. I'm gonna retract the flaps and see how they interact here. Okay, so that's the thing with the leading edge flap right now, is that I don't think it can fully retract, which isn't a problem. It's just, how are we going to attach this edge right here? I don't know. It's not a flush fit. There's definitely gaps here and there, but I don't know. It's, again, this is first gen design. First time I've ever done anything like this for a landing gear or anything like that. So it's not bad, I guess, all things considered. All right, let's get the second fairing going here. We need to get going. Make some good progress here. Okay, this is looking quite nice. See, like this edge right here, it wants to pop out. So that's why I like to always mash it into one of the surfaces to prevent that from happening. Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I'm gonna check for comments here. Nice video, like, my friend. Thanks, FAV Stealth RC. Appreciate it. Okay, looks good. Just do the back side here. Back outer edge. Just gotta smooth this surface out. Okay, looks good. I just need to slice this excess off. Okay, looks good. Okay, I just move forward a little bit. Get that front half of that edge right there. Tweezers are really nice for that. Hard to reach places. zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see. Okay, have this up. I'm just gonna slice this piece of tape off. Just make it clean. Not jam up the mechanism. That's good. And just slice that bit off the top there. Oof. Okay, it's still a little rough around the edges. Okay, you got most of it. Okay, it's looking good. I just need to get the inner surface here. The inner surface. So I grab that. And this one. Okay, that looks pretty good. That was a pretty good edge compared to the other side here. Okay, that cleaned that scrap piece off. Okay, it's looking good. Very curious to see how this left side fits for the landing gear. Because we know the right side is a bit tight, but we were able to get it to work. I'm just testing it out again. I have to cut it just slightly. It's not a good fit. Yeah, this one's not fitting. It's very peculiar. Because I thought we tested this, and I guess we didn't really test it, but I think this is just a little bit more elongated compared to the other side. That's why we aren't able to fit it into landing gear well with the same dimension. Okay, that's gonna require a little bit more wrestling to get where we want. Excuse me for a second. Got too warm, so I needed to take off a little bit. Take off a layer. Anyways, yeah, this one is interesting for sure. Alright, now I'm curious, does it stand correctly? This is something I have to observe here. It's slightly higher on the right side now, which is interesting. I think we can fix that later, but I'm not sure. That's the thing with landing gear, is that it's so, like, everything's so tightly integrated. Like, if you adjust one thing, so many other things will change, and goodness. Anyways, let's see if it fits now. Okay, I just gotta bend this one in. Yeah, this left side is being really stubborn. It's not fitting, working properly. Luckily, it won't be in there most of the time. Most of the time, this will be a display model, which means the landing gear will be down. It's just when we want to fly, we need to put them up. Okay, well, for now, we're just gonna keep it in there, like that. Okay, This isn't great. The fairing and the door is really rough around the edges. It really is. You could tell just by looking at it, it's a first prototype. It's not a final product by any means of the imagination, any stretch of the imagination. It's just an experiment, I guess you could call it. Right, so this is definitely not ideal. I mean, this back part here can hold it in. It's just the front here that's really annoying. It doesn't want to fully rest inside the well or the fairing right here. That's something that I don't know how to deal with. Yeah, there's just gonna be a little gap there, and that's really, there's not much we can do about it other than designing a better landing gear mechanism and overall system, I mean. But with the way we have it with pre-tension elements, it's well, I feel like this is about as clean as we're gonna get it to be, which is to say not very, but it's a first step in more accurate landing gear. So I do appreciate it for what it is. It's just, it's not quite where I want it to be. So, you know, we'll have to work on another version of this aircraft with new design changes. I think in the next version, what we're gonna do is, in terms of major architectural changes to the design, we're going to have to switch kind of the configuration of the landing gear versus flaps. So right now the flaps are being driven by this linear bearing actuator down here, the second layer, the second one down here. So when you push this, it actually retracts the flaps, right? So notice that it changes angle very slightly. I'm starting to think that this down here, this one, this bottom linear actuator might be better purposed for linking all three landing gear at once. And that way is when you push it, you know, it controlled, in a controlled manner, it drops the landing gear down and retracts them back up. I think that's going to be the next thing that I'm probably going to do with this design, is to switch the configuration. Right now, this knob right here drives the flaps, which, to be frank, they don't really need that much movement, right? It's, the angle isn't that much, and it's not very useful. The reason why it is the way it is that I originally intended for this to be a spring-loaded design so that these flaps will adjust in flight. So you launch it and it'd be like this, and slowly throughout the flight, you know, become like that. So it kind of digs into the air as it grabs on and, you know, pitches up or anything like that. But we're not even at that stage yet. So I think it's not worthwhile to actuate the flap system necessarily. This real estate right here could be better served for the landing gear themselves. Because with a, you know, with a non-pretension element landing gear system, we can still build in some shock absorbing, of course, but the major mechanism itself will not fight against any potential fairing like this, and we can do a much better job at packaging everything. So that's just kind of my thoughts going forward. Kind of already analyzing the design a little bit before we even finish building it, but that's, you know, how design works. You iterate and think of better ideas. So, and so in its place, the landing gear or the leading edge flap mechanism can be something similar to the current landing gear system where you just kind of adjust it manually. So there's no like knob or input elsewhere. You just directly adjust it. And for that, I need to think about a better internal mechanism that allows for that to happen. Um, but I think for the most part, it should be good. Um, I think I'm going to keep it deployed in the slat or flap down position for most of the flights anyways, so we can even make it stationary if we wanted to. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, again, this is looking okay. We've taped most of the things down. Just a little bit left here in the back with this fairing, right? Just do the thing here. That kind of secures it in place. And I think we are mostly good to go. There's like the edges here, yeah, I think it should be good. Okay, now, so yeah, again, this isn't perfect, right? But for the most part, I think it should be okay. We're keeping it stowed for now, to work on maybe some paneling here and the little handle here that we're gonna install. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like this is really well built, if I do say so myself. Yeah, the tolerances on this fairing and landing gear aren't that great. It's still very much a first prototype here. I need to find a better way to do the landing gear doors. Maybe a sliding cover of sorts for the next mechanism. But anyways, yeah, let's continue with the build here. Definitely interested in seeing how we're gonna sculpt this. So I'm thinking right now we can oh, that's a piece of cardstock. That's not what I want. Alright, so we're going to use this piece of paper here to kind of work with our plane here. So we're going to kind of copy what we did for the front. We have a triangular tip that melds in between two of these surfaces. Or you could start with the outside. I feel like the outside would be easier. Get a start on that. Okay. Just looking at the geometry first. So I think we need like some rectangular piece. So it's gonna be roughly this size. Oh, some lead. I'm just gonna really roughly prototype this. So we don't even care about measuring at the moment. We just need to get the right shape and general idea. Okay, so something like that. Okay, so something like that comes back here. Something like this comes back here. Again, these are going to be pretty irregular shapes, so don't expect them to fit like a charm immediately. Just kind of fitting each piece here. Okay. Need 2 adjustments here. And here. That'll allow the front to come to a point, and the rear to also come to a point. Okay, this is, maybe this is better suited for another surface. Just trying things out here. More material to play with. Let's try that again. Maybe we could do a symmetrical piece and have that be the length of this and taper down to a point, something like that. I'm gonna try this. There's no guarantee that it'll work. We're just going by a gut feeling here. Okay, this is just a prototype piece again. most part, okay, maybe we need a shallower edge here. Not sure. I'm not sure about this at all, but I feel like round surfaces might fit better. Let's see how this works the inside here. This is not, oh, sorry, I wasn't in frame most of the time. This isn't like a critical thing. We could even leave it out if we wanted to. That'll make it look kind of like a Russian aircraft of sorts, with the, huge nacelles for the engines. Like on a Su-30 or something like that. They have the engines literally mounted underneath like that. So, I don't know. It might not even be necessary. We could even just go with this as is. I feel like that adds a little bit more character too. And at this point, this project is overcomplicated. So I think, letting it stick out, it kind of gives it its own, gives it a presence of its own, right? So it's like, you want to give it some unique characteristics. This really sharp corner there, we could definitely spend time to smooth that out, but this is already a lot of drag. Adding another panel that's more drag, that's more, just having it be functional, like, covering the landing gear, protecting the landing gear in flight, keeping the landing gear in, that's already like more than enough function for this little fairing. And I think we don't necessarily need additional stuff to make it work. Although I feel like the only thing that we might want to add might not be like a thing here. Maybe like a small panel, like an L-shaped panel to cover this little divot hole thing. But other than that, we have to really make the front here look a little bit better, because right now it's not that great. So let's work on that instead. I don't think we need any side panels in terms of fairings, because that's gonna just complicate things, I feel like. Okay, so with that said, let's work on the thingamajig here. Just how it melds into the, I don't even know if that's a word, meld. How it transitions into the front here. I think that should be the right geometry, roughly. That's the thing with these projects, they're as complicated as you want them to be. At some point, you gotta realize that, okay, what I'm putting in is not worth the effort. For me, that is the additional side panels, because I think the engine nacelles, or the, the landing gear fairings, they look fine the way they are, to me at least. It might not be the smoothest thing, but in real life, Russian planes are like that, and they still have an appeal to them. They look rugged, they look like they can handle things. Okay, maybe we don't even need the side panel there. That just complicates things again. I just have this front bit come back to a certain point, maybe about here, and have that in gray cardstock. So we're gonna directly start to machine this part out here. I say machine, but it's really just cutting, tracing and cutting. But again, it's like subtractive manufacturing, so in a way it is kind of like machining, but we're not using machines, we're just, I mean, scissors could be considered a machine of sorts, but I don't know. I'm just talking to myself at this point. We don't need a hole there, we just need the full piece to exist. That's the little piece that we need. Okay. That fits nice. Okay. I just need another one of these for the other side. For this side, I'm going to erase the graphite lines right on the edge there. You could definitely leave those in if you want like that kind of aesthetic, like a very rough, jagged looking thing. But for me, I prefer to have a clean part. Luckily for us, this is a pretty small piece. Just move this over a little bit. There we go. Okay, move that in so we don't drop it. Okay. looks good. Now that's gonna be for the other side. So the little edge is on the inside. So that means that this piece is actually reversed like that. It's gonna go on the like that. Okay, so we have our two pieces like this. I think we're gonna go for it, just directly go for it here. I believe this is gonna require a half width strip of tape like that. Just put the excess to the side. We'll use it for the other side. See, small parts, you gotta be careful with them. Okay, that's looking all right. It's not too bad. Hopefully this will smooth out the front, make it look a little bit better. Okay. Let's see this here. Just trim that a little tiny bit. Really just tape over that leading edge there. Oh man, this is gonna be rough. Honestly, in some ways, this does feel kind of like a Russian fighter aircraft of sorts. Which is funny because I'm in the States, I'm American. I'm making something that looks like that. Anyways. Yeah, it's definitely not the smoothest thing in the world. But that's okay. I'm willing to make some compromises. Trim this excess off here. That looks a little bit more acceptable in the front. Again, it's not perfect. I'm not trying to pretend it's perfect. Oh, good lord. Oh, this is just too complicated. Definitely not the best design solution out there. I'm not saying it was, but you know, going into designing, you gotta be optimistic that you're gonna improve the thing that you're gonna try and make to be the best that it can. And I think for this project, we've already tried really, really hard. So there comes a time when you need to know when to let go of some expectations and this is not really a philosophical channel per se, but we gotta think about these things. It's about the bigger picture, right? The struggle is real. Jeez. I really hope this thing flies. If it doesn't fly, I'll be really sad. But, well, we put our heart and soul into this thing for the past couple months. So hopefully it works. I'll lift this up a little bit. Yeah. Oh, a little notch there. Just trim that excess off. There we go. Just grab tiny pieces here just to secure that edge right there. Smooth it in. It's definitely not great. I keep on saying that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too critical. That's the problem with being an artist and designer. So oftentimes you're too critical of your own work, which actually limits your growth. You gotta be willing to make mistakes and make imperfect projects. And that's how you eventually, you know, make good projects by making bad ones. Sounds very cliche, very cheesy, but it is the goddamn truth. You make mistakes, you know it doesn't work, which this landing gear design we've already invested in so much doesn't really work well for the enclosure. So we'll have to improve it in our next iteration, but this is pretty good for what it is. Going from 0 landing gear to this, I think that's already a win. So you gotta be like, you gotta have perspective, right? So I guess I'll have some comments there. So I cannibalized a mainspring out of a employee ID badge holder, the ones with a cord that retracts. I think it can be worked, it can work as a basis for self-deploying mechanism. Yeah, it could. That's like a coil spring, right? So like it's a rotational spring. Those things are in watches as well, like mechanical watches. I think your work is quite amazing. Thanks. I'm glad you think that. I definitely realize that I am a little bit self-critical, but also got to recognize it for what it is. These tolerances are okay. They're not bad. They're only bad because this airplane model is at a smaller scale, and so these gaps and seams and things look really large in comparison. But if you zoom out when in flight, this looks absolutely fine, and it's going to be flying really fast, so you won't be seeing it. I'm just making excuses at this point. It's not perfect, but we want to try and get it to be better. That's like kind of the balance that you need to have, right? Just in anything you do, really. It's not even this hobby. It's it's any endeavor that you do, you have to try and balance your expectations of perfection versus, this is good enough and we'll improve next time, we'll learn next time and do something different next time, right? So that's the attitude that you always got to have when you approach any creative project like this, where the expectations and end results, they're open-ended, right? You have to set them for yourself and decide if it's enough, right? But also you got to try and push yourself so that you really do kind of grow in that regard, right? So for me, I always try and tighten up my tolerances, make my designs a little bit more clever and clean. This is the first time I've ever done landing gear, so I think this is a pretty good result for that. It's definitely not perfect. It's a little jagged. It's a little rough around the edges, but in the next iteration, M2 design of the YX10 Astra, we will conquer this problem. We will try and design our way through this problem. And again, this is looking quite nice. This is already a huge improvement compared to the OG original Astra. So this is looking good. So I think the two fairings in the back are pretty much done at this point. It's not much to add. You could definitely spend forever trying to smooth things out, but to be honest, I don't think it's really worth the effort, especially because the little fairings here, they actually give it kind of a unique silhouette, you know. So I think I'm gonna leave it as is, not smooth things out. It's a little bit jarring compared to the rest of the aircraft, which is very smooth and organic and aerodynamic looking. But it's a little quirk of this variant. We'll have to live with that, but it's not a huge deal. It's just we can't really correct for this at this point. This is like a huge design thing, so we'd have to redesign the mechanism, redesign everything to make it fit and work better, and we honestly don't need to do that at this point. This already proves the concept of this mechanism, and it works fine for what it is. So we'll have to make do with what we got. In flight, I don't think this will be a huge issue. The fairing itself might actually add drag, to be honest, because the landing gear is very thin, very low profile, but having a package like this kind of just makes it seem more realistic and complete, I guess, for lack of a better term. But yeah, let me just add a little piece of tape here just to fix this a little bit. It's like lifting off and it's bothering me. Definitely not perfect, but we will improve the next time with a better architecture. It's a deep problem that we have. It's not just like the concept. I mean, it's not just the execution. It's the concept itself, right? Of a pretension element landing gear. It does work. It's just you can't build a fairing around it. You can't build a fuselage enclosure or anything around it. So, at least not easily, right? We did it here, but it's not perfect. So I'm just rambling on to myself at this point. So what do we need to do next? We need to build the handle, because this is a flight model. If we don't have a handle, how are we going to launch it, right? We could hold it here, but this, when you throw it, the leading edge of the wing gets in the way. So it's not really ideal. And there's one guy who always says use a catapult, and I always say like no to that, because in theory it's a great idea, but you really need a very rigid structure in order to do that, and you need a very, very powerful catapult in order to launch it fast and high. And I find my arm easier to deal with than having to build a launcher, having to build, integrate a thing. Down the line, when I have my own house and when I can build a very big catapult for these paper airplanes, maybe I will use a catapult. But for now, I am going to hand launch everything, which is why we need a handle. And to build the handle, we need to also increase the tension in the front landing gear here. Because right now it's a little bit weird in that this will actually collapse in on itself. The nose will like collapse down. So we need to increase the tension by pulling this rubber band back a little bit harder, and that'll increase the tension to an acceptable level, right? And then, to do that, we need to use a paper clip of sorts. This is just temporary, just to hold the elastic band in place. But we need to build some type of fin structure here that has a, very tough paper clip thing. And I don't know, it needs to also hold this little loop here of elastic band so that it keeps the tension there. This is a last minute fix. Ideally, this would not be a problem, right? Ideally, this tension would already exist inside, but I'm not a great designer. But we just gotta make do, right? We gotta, just pull this a little bit harder to add the tension that we need and call it a day. But to do that, we need to design some sort of frame for this thingamajig. So I'm gonna just do like a quick sketch. This isn't gonna be like a full out design sketch video or anything like that. We have like about 30 minutes left in our stream today. I do want to keep on track of time here. I'm not making any sense. I need a little bit more caffeine. All right, so we need a frame, but it has to be mounted on the surface of this, which is tough. That is really tough. If it's not anchored to the actual structural base of the design, if it's mounted on the skin, it's going to be a little bit tedious to fix. I guess what we could do is, so we just need a fin. Okay, so this needs to move to the front here, get out of the way. So I need some sort of fin. I think, a fin like that. I just need enough area for my thumb to grip. So if we do something like that, right, like a fin like this, or a fin like that, right, really mellow geometry there, and have like some sort of anchor, right? So we need a lot of surface area to mount this geometry. So something like that. Maybe it could be like a long fin like that. But the point is, it needs to be kind of aerodynamic looking, right? Because it does contribute to the side profile. So if we make it something like that, this fin comes down here. Imagine this folding out of the page 90 degrees. So we have something that looks like this, right? So something that looks like this, and then it goes back, and then since it's symmetric, we'll have another handle on this side. So this is one flat surface, and this is like vertical down. This is down, this is aircraft left, this is aircraft right. This is the front going here, front. This is aft. So something like that, right? So what this would do is this allows for a huge area where we can mount tape. Tape is the slanted bit here. Like that. And what I'm thinking is in this front profile here, in this little piece that goes like that, we can mount a wire, a paper clip like so. And so what's going to happen is this rubber band is going to be wrapped around here. It's going to apply a tension force this direction. And since this is a fixed geometry that matches this outer mold line fin, and it's stuck within this enclosure here, it's going to be trapped just by pure tension. Of course, we will tape it to the actual fin itself, right? Anchor it down, but or maybe not the top here. We'll definitely anchor it down here on the bottom, and but this will allow for a pretty rigid structure, and we can mount it using the large surface area on either side of this little base anchor thing. So from the front, it looks like this, right? So this bottom part here comes down. You know, you got tape in this side, tape in this side. The paper clip is right down the middle here in this shape. So it gets pulled into this little corner and it can't move really. So I think this design is feasible. I think you could pull this off. Now is the question of how do we want that thing to look? Again, for me, most of my projects are based on looks. Yeah, I've been told I'm not really an engineer, I'm more of an artist. But the reality is I'm somewhere in between. Not a full engineer, not a full artist. Not a design engineer, and not an industrial designer. Those are very different things. This is going to be interesting. I don't know what the shape of the fin should be. It needs to definitely be enough so that I can hold it. So, I don't know. In the past, I have added ventral fins, but I really would like to keep this clean, but I don't think there's any way to avoid having a handle here. So that's the question. How do we fix this? How do we need an anchor point and we need a fin. Why do we need a fin? Right, so you gotta ask yourself these questions. Maybe there's a different solution around this. Right, this is called thinking creatively. Going back and really asking yourself, what problem are you trying to solve? So we need a handle because I need to be able to launch this without a catapult. We need to be able to launch it using our hands, just launch it like so, and go with that. But we also don't want to ruin the side profile of this thing. So is there a way to achieve both? I'm trying to think of this. This is an opportunity for new ideas. This definitely works. We could do this. It's just this is going to ruin the side profile, which I would really prefer not to do. We need a stable method of mounting a piece of... Oh, that works. That works. Okay, yeah, so I have an idea. So you have a little rod, right? Like a little very thin material here. You can't just apply a piece of tape over that and expect it to, stay on a piece of paper, right? So this is going to be jagged edge, jagged edge. This isn't going to work because this thing will apply very high pressure because this is a very small contact point. So it's going to slide around this way. You can shift the paper clip when you tape it like that, right? It can also shift this way, which is not good because this is a very high tension element, right? When we pull this back, we want it to be very high tension. So the idea that I have is that this wire, this paper clip, can be held by a piece of paper, right? That's folded over itself. So we tape this rear edge here, right? So this is taped down, taped shut. This is in there. So this does keep it from moving in this direction. It doesn't prevent it from moving in this direction. Right, so if you imagine like this is the paper clip and I wrap a piece of paper around like that, and imagine it's cardstock, right? A very, very powerful, very durable piece of paper, like type of paper. So doing this would anchor down effectively this little rod here. And what this paper does is this provides a large surface area over which we can attach a piece of tape, right? So that we can anchor it down onto the design. Does that kind of make sense? I hope that makes sense. So effectively, we are anchoring this wire onto a flat surface, right? So right now, let me just grab one real quick. I think we're gonna use a silver one for this anyways, so it shouldn't matter too much, but imagine trying to tape this down onto this piece of paper, right? Imagine it's, let me just stretch this out real quick, because we're gonna need it to be open anyways. Imagine taping this really thin piece of wire down onto this paper. It's gonna be able to move like this, like back and forth like that, and like that, right? But if we kind of wrap a piece of paper around, so pretend this is a piece of cardstock, but it's not. I know it's not. But cardstock will be a lot tougher than this, right? So imagine wrapping this around like that. This now, if it's in tension, will always be in contact with this edge, right? It can still slide like that, but if you anchor that down, tape it down like that, it's gonna wanna go like that. Imagine a V shape. It'll kind of settle into this, right? Into this little pocket of sorts, right? Like you could even have, so imagine like a V-shaped wire, V-shaped wire like so, and you have a trapezoid with edges folded over like that. Of course, you need to increase this a little bit to get a very good grip, but you get the idea, right? So just tape that down. And you have an elastic tension force here, tension going forward. this is reacted by a force exerted on this frame, this metal frame here. I should probably use a different color for this. This is really hard to see. Let's see, do I have a red pen? I don't have a red pen, but I do have black. Black is different from gray. So here we go. This frame right here is what we're dealing with, right? You have a tension force here. This piece of paper on this trapezoid wraps around so that there is a force being exerted on the wire here. I'll just call that force 1. And there's another force here, force 2. You can do the trig, but essentially what happens is the horizontal component of F1, so let's just call that the x direction, right? And x direction, so F1x plus F2x is going to equal T. See what I mean? And it doesn't matter what these are because we don't really need to solve for that because this material is going to be way stronger than that. It can handle that. But this is the idea here, is that we kind of have this wedge thing. You could definitely have it be straight too. It's just this makes it interesting because what we can do with a shape like this is, okay, so this is hard to convey, but okay, hear me out. Here's an idea. Instead of throwing the plane from the handle, right? Instead of, you have your thumb here and your 4 fingers, right? And then you throw the plane like that, and it has a wing, and it's going off like that, right? It's a plane. Instead of doing that, what if you could hold on to the handle? So you hold on to this handle, but the plane itself detaches, flies off, right? That kind of makes sense. That's not making any sense. I bet it's confusing a lot of people, but makes sense to me. And I wonder if it'll work. So in order to have a geometry like that, you need to have something that can exit a slot, right? So a rectangle on a rectangle, you can exit pretty easily. The plane moves forward, your handle stays back. But I'm thinking about doing geometry like this because we can do a handle that's like this. Of course, it's not perfectly drawn, but you get the idea. And a plane that flies off forward, right? Does that kind of make sense? And then we can actually have this black part here. Go back a little bit. And we can put our handle underneath. Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. You could even curve it in. You could curve this black part in just to get a better we can't have it be too long, but we need to have enough power behind our throw, and it needs to be a clean, quick separation. I feel like I'm not making any sense to you guys, which is okay, because when it's executed, you'll be able to see how it works. So the key here is this trapezoid part. We need to get that geometry down right, and we need to get the geometry of this thing correct. What else do we need here? This is an out of plane bend because it needs to wrap around this curved underside fuselage. So, okay, let's see. Okay, we got 13 minutes. Can we do this in 13 minutes? I feel like this is a very simple part. We should be able to do it in 13 minutes, but I don't know. Let's get this thing going here. How much do we need? This angle, this initial angle, in regards to separation of the handle from the plane, yeah. So you have essentially like you know how like yeah. Well, I won't explain it too much. I'll just start to execute it. I think it's a very simple concept, but it's just not a very common idea. I think I've done that before, actually. It's just, it was back when I didn't really have great manufacturing skills. So it didn't really work, but we can try this new idea here. Ooh, that's... Okay, this isn't perfect, but let's see here. How long is this thing, approximately? So about 10.5. So that would be 5. That's another thing. These silver ones are low friction, so that's good. Because the other ones that I use, they have a little coating of rubber around. So not okay. So 5. So 10.5 divided by 2 is 5.25. So that's gonna be 5.25 right about there. We're not gonna cut this. We just need to mark where to fold. Oh, this is a nice Sharpie. Oh. Okay, so that's that, and I'm gonna grab pliers here. I'm still debating on the angle. I think we should match this panel line here, just for aesthetic purposes. That's gonna be our deciding factor here. So how back far do we need this to be? I'm curious. Oh shit. Okay, well that just ruins all our plans. We have no more rubber band inside. If we don't have a rubber band inside, then what are we even doing? Jesus Christ, how did I... Oh god, I fucking ruined it. Oh wait, how do we have another one here? I don't understand how this works. I don't understand how any of this works. Alright, let's try this again. And this time I'm gonna be a little bit more gentle so that I don't rip this thing in half. Does this increase the tension in the landing gear? Please tell me it's a yes. It's very slight. Oh, okay, yeah, it does. Okay, so right about there. Okay, just gonna mark that a little bit there. So it's gonna match this angle right there. So we're gonna, okay, we can continue on. We have one more life in terms of rubber band. I really hope I don't break it. If I break it, that means I have to disassemble the fairing and reinstall more elastic bands, which would be tragic. I would really appreciate not having to do that. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. Okay, yeah, I definitely need more angle on that. Good. All right. So that's gonna be facing out a little bit. That's about right, I think. Okay. Now I need to bend this out of plane a little bit because that's kind of how the fuselage is. So now it fits better. Nice. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna mark the thing here. Okay, we're gonna go in closer here and take a closer look. This is where it comes out. Just need to fold it back like that and then get it to complete an arc diamond shape thing. One question, does the front landing gear have to be deployed in order to launch? No, no. So exactly what I'm trying to achieve here is this structure will apply the tension on the landing gear at this point. But, you know, regardless of if it's deployed or retracted, this frame will still be there. And this frame, basically it's dual purpose. One purpose is to anchor this rubber band down, and the second purpose is to let the handle slide through, right? So this, again, you know, the handle kind of just slides through. Imagine like an airfoil shaped handle, right? Like that slides through the back here, and you know, we're able to get it going. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, well, that kind of sucks. But that's the kind of basic idea here. Okay, I think we have 4 minutes left. I don't think I can finish it in this stream, but I might do another stream this weekend, just to get this ironed out, and maybe a little bit more paneling in the weekend session, extra session there. But I really want to get this done so that we can move on to paneling the top and working on the vertical stabilizers so that we can approach completion here. But this is looking okay so far. It's just we need to really spend the time and get things right. Okay, so this This is also what we need here. We have kind of a house shaped looking thing. I think what we might need to do. Interested in how this is gonna work out. Not enough time today. Damn. All right. Might need a little bit more extra here to be able to mount it. But this could honestly, I don't know. I was trying to think, like, if it's just an open wire, open loop like that, how is this gonna? So we have. Okay, we have our little handle here attached to the airfoil shaped thing, right? And it's going to be underneath that, but what's gonna stop it from going forward, I guess? Oh yeah, this shape is gonna stop it from going forward. That's the key there. But then this isn't really, this is underneath. Oh, the fin is, okay, so the fin actually needs to be like forward swept, the handle. That way it catches this and accelerates it forward. Because if it were backwards like this, this bit here would want to separate, right? It would want to slide across that and go away from the fuselage. So we need to have it be like this so that it jams up closer to the fuselage. Okay, so that's kind of the details here of this system that we're gonna try and build potentially tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Really want to try and get this handle situation done. Again, we have one more life here. If we accidentally break this, then it's game over for, you know, strengthening the mechanism in the front. Yeah. Really hope I don't break this. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today. Sorry we didn't get too much done. We literally just integrated everything, added 2 fairings here, but we did a lot of thinking for this handle thing, which we will try and build as soon as we can, as early as tomorrow. I might do a stream tomorrow, just to get this thing, you know, done in terms of the handle integration, the fabrication, and the integration here. But I think for the most part it looks good. Yeah, this is an experimental design. I don't know if this will work, but it's worth a shot at testing out, right? So we're gonna be trying that potentially this weekend. I do need to make up time for the 5th of next month because I won't be doing a stream then. So I think this weekend stream will make up for that time. And, you know, once that's done, just a couple of cosmetic panels here to fix up this messy look. And then we can work on the top here, cosmetic panels, as well as, I think the panels here on the top, cosmetic ones, they're gonna come in last because we're gonna mount our stabilizers here. We're gonna have to do some surgery here, like what we did down here with the left, or actually this is the right side landing gear. So yeah, we're gonna try and build the handle here, finish off the bottom this weekend, and potentially work on the top as soon as next week. In that case, we might actually be able to finish in January, late January, but no promises there's a lot of details that I need to iron out, so um, we'll see how that goes. But this has been fun. This has been real. Hopefully, you guys made some good progress on your projects too. Again, feel free to stay in touch. Leave any questions, comments in the chat, or if you're watching at a later date, um, leave it in the comment section, or reach out to me on Instagram at ben.fellow and talk to me there. But it's been real. Yeah, we'll just finish this up potentially tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and we'll make some good progress there. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next stream. Thanks.